Jerome Powell's most recent remarks, when they are looked into closely, it seems that he's signaling at least 2 more cuts, could be another 50 basis points. The bulls love it. The Dow is up. I expect more to the upside next week. And 30,000 seems to be in focus for us if all stays well and Trump stops sending out crazy tweets. Hey, welcome back. It's almost over already. 2 hours flew by. We're having so much fun and so much easier without Frankie here. And I'm not even worried about Frankie correcting my mistakes because he's not here to correct them. I'll have to correct his mistake for missing today. But make no mistake about it. When we bring you the guests who know where the rubber meets the road, we bring you the best of the best. And Jen Kerns joins us again. Jen's a Republican strategist, former speechwriter for Fox News for the presidential debates, spokesperson for the Republican Party in California, contributor to Hill. Jen, thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for having me.
And we heard one word we did not hear at the Democratic debates the other night was impeachment, because that's like a scary issue. It's a slippery slope with the Dems, right? But now suddenly we're hearing the word impeachment, but not impeach Trump. Now it's impeach Kavanaugh again. They're going back to Kavanaugh. What the heck? What's going on here with this?
Well, we shouldn't be that surprised. Remember those contentious hearings where Brett Kavanaugh was put through the ringer for some alleged incident that may or may not have happened 35 years ago. When the vote didn't go the Democrats' way, many of the top Democrats on that committee went on camera and said, that's fine, we'll impeach him once he's a Supreme Court justice. And so sure enough, that's what they did. Took him a little time to get organized. But you see this rolling out here. I really think this was in response to that tape that was leaked last week where the attorney of Dr. Christine Blasey Ford was actually caught on tape at a speech, giving a speech, I think it was in San Francisco, where she said that Dr. Christine Blasey was just so passionate about abortion, she simply wanted Kavanaugh to have an asterisk under his name forever. And so that cast light really on the credibility of the entire Kavanaugh hearings last November, which quite frankly, I think allowed the Democrats to take back the House. I think it was a last minute, late October surprise political hit job and nothing more. And the Democrats actually got away with it. They actually won the greatest number of women in Congress with it, and they won back the House with it. And I think it was a dirty trick. And so what you see is the Democrats, anytime there's an action, there's an equal and opposite reaction from the Democrats. So given that they had this tape leak last week of Christine Blasey Ford's own attorney saying it may not have even been true, they were just doing it to protect Roe versus Wade. Now you see the Democrats, they're going to go on the offense now, and they did. They went after Kavanaugh with this New York Times piece.
Hey, Rich, I'm sure you're going to be covering this on the This Is America podcast and next week on the This Is America Primetime on WPHT. But the article that the New York Times published, the person who allegedly was sexually harassed says she doesn't remember it happening. But there are these other people popping up. Like, how crazy is this getting? The eyewitness is not an eyewitness, but they're still going to impeach a Supreme Court justice?
Yeah, so it's that one guy, Steyer, that they quote saying, oh, yeah, I saw this whole thrusting of the male genitalia. But then they asked the woman who was supposedly the recipient of such said thrusting, and she says, no, I don't even remember that.
I don't remember it.
And not only that, there were several friends that were present at this party. I think at least 4 friends in this case, just as in the case of Christine Blasey Ford, who were interviewed and said they do not recall any exchange that this happened. And I'll tell you something, as someone who has been to college, has been to a sorority, has been to many fraternity parties and many bachelorette parties, believe me, you don't forget when a male genitalia is thrust in your face, whether you like it or not.
Wow.
That's not something you forget.
Well, that one for you, John.
That's not something Rich and I have to worry about. But I get it. One of the byproducts of thrusting male genitalia is birth and pregnancy. And I know this is a topic that you want to talk about here, but Planned Parenthood, one of the biggest abortion providers in the world, is in a little bit of a food fight with their former president. What gives here?
They are. And look, you talk about the divisions within the Democratic Party, the he said versus she said. This is a she said, which is a very contentious. The president of Planned Parenthood, who's been there the last couple of years, a minority female physician, has parted ways with Planned Parenthood over what she calls their bloodthirsty, abortion-first political culture at Planned Parenthood. Now, how many times do we hear in a political debate or turn on the TV and Democrats say, no, Planned Parenthood is just this nice organization that gives out mammograms free to women in areas of need? Well, the key tenet of disagreement here with their physician, former president of Planned Parenthood, she says that Planned Parenthood turned down the Title X money that Trump recently said you have to agree to some stipulations here to continue to provide services to women in poor areas. Planned Parenthood said, nope, abortion's our first priority. This goes against everything they tell you publicly, but in private, they made the decision that abortion comes before providing low-income women health services, mammogram services, and that's what this contention is about. But I think there's a bigger trend here. We're seeing some fissures in the Democratic Party that we haven't seen in prior years. You see this socialism versus capitalism argument. You've got the Joe Bidens, who I think is a decent, probably capitalist. He's being forced to the left because of his party's division and the fight over whether the party should be socialist and whether the country should be socialist. And now you're having this battle at the Planned Parenthood level. And make no mistake, they are the largest provider in the world, but they're also one of the largest political PACs. Let's be honest. Planned Parenthood PAC, the PPAC is what it's called, is a big player in politics. They spend upwards of $500 million in a given cycle. So this is quite interesting to have this sort of division. And it comes at a time when Republicans on the other side are more united than ever. You look at the RNC. The RNC usually fights with the president a little bit, or the NRCC fights with the RNC about this, or the NRSC. Republicans, for once, we're not shooting ourselves in the foot. President Trump has Republicans united, and this is coming at a time when Democrats are starting to see some cracks in the armor. Both of those could be very explosive for Democrats. They're not going into 2020 united, and I think that's a Republican advantage.
Rich.
Jen Kerns, if I can, where you mentioned these fault lines, these fissures, where are they coming from? Who's driving the bus through these, I guess, these wedge issues or creating this division?
Well, I think the people are, and I'm a populist. I worked for another populist, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm a Trump supporter, so I like these guys that come in and blow up the boxes, as they say. And I think the people actually drive it. You look at the polling of the American people on abortion, and again, not an issue I normally go out there and talk about. I'm more of a fiscal gal, but you look at the numbers on that, the number of Americans who think abortion should be legal in all circumstances is at a record low. It's at 25%. Planned Parenthood will never tell you that, but that's a Gallup poll. They are the gold standard in polling, so Gallup does not lie. Only 25% of Americans think it should be legal in all cases, and that's the lowest it's been since Roe versus Wade were passed. So the American people are driving this, happy to see it, and the Democrats are falling apart, happy to see that as well.
I'm happy to see it too, and I'm always happy when Rich Valdez and Jen Kerns are here. And Frankie's not. Jen, I want to thank you for coming down and joining us. Frankie Bubbly. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back. Rich is not going to correct my mistakes, but we're going to wrap up this Money Monday right after this.